On today's episode, Elite Week continues with Allison Tai. This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome back to the show. Today we are talking with Allison Tai. This is the third episode in our Elite Week series. We're doing elite interviews every day from now until WTM on November 11th. We've already talked with Amelia Boone and Stephanie Bishop. Today we talk with Allison Tai. If you've listened to every episode of the podcast, you already know who Allison is. I totally get it if you haven't listened to every episode, though. It's not like Breaking Bad or Lost. You don't have to start at the beginning. If you haven't heard every episode, here's a recap.
Previously on Lost.
World's toughest podcast. Allison Tai won second place at World's Toughest Mudder 2014 and won the 2017 Toughest Mudder Series Championship. She's been a guest multiple times and is considered a friend of the show. There, that should catch you up. A couple quick notes before we talk with Allison. Don't forget about our first ever World's Toughest Podcast call-in show. It is this Monday night at 9 p.m. to midnight Pacific time in the U.S. That is 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. London time on Tuesday morning. I know that's early for my British amigos, but it's late for the East Coast guys in the U.S. also. So if there was a perfect time, I would have already booked it. Don't forget, Monday night, November 6th at 9 p.m. U.S. Pacific time. Put it in your calendar now. Stop running for 2 seconds and put it in your calendar with the phone number, 619-378-4369. That's 61 Ye Pug Fox. 619-378-4369. Call me on Monday night with questions, elite finisher predictions. If you want to say something to the community, maybe you want to promote your 24-hour Icelandic race, whatever you want. Keep it to a hard PG-13, though. Your kids might listen someday. 619-378-4369. Before we talk with Allison Tai, let's read an iTunes review. This is from Patrick Black. Great podcast. 5 stars. Listening to the podcast helped me prep for Chicago's Toughest. In September, I ran my first tougher and was able to pass Funky Monkey for the first time. #grip strength. The podcast is informative and has been a help as I get ready for my first WTM. Will Hicks is funny, and I look forward to hearing other mudder stories. Great, interesting podcast. #best OCR podcast. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate the hashtags, although I don't think they work in iTunes, but it's all right. Congratulations on passing Funky Monkey. That is a difficult obstacle. Well done. If you would like to be a part of the show, you can leave a review on iTunes also. Open the purple podcast app on your iPhone and search for Tough Mudder. Scroll down and click on Write a Review. Apple has made it much simpler to leave a review for the podcast on your phone since the most recent iOS update. So, special thanks to Maddie Gregg. It's time to talk with Allison Tai. Let's go to the phones. Allison Tai is the 2017 Toughest Mudder Series champion in the women's division. Allison ran 120 miles in her 3 best Toughest Mudder races, beating Lindsay Webster and her 120 miles by nearly a full hour. Congratulations, Allison.
Thanks for that.
So, World's Toughest Mudder is around the corner. How do you feel?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm really excited to actually have the day arrive. I think probably like most people right now, I'm just feeling like, come on, let's do this. Especially just because we got into that really steady rhythm of doing like the toughest each month, or at least I did. And then we had that little bit of a break. So I'm just kind of chomping at the bit to get out there and do our final dance in the desert, as they say.
Do you get nervous before a big race?
Depends on the race. So, yeah, I'd say that I do, but less so in the races that, are just like super stacked and I'm just going out to have a good time, or local races where it's not, I think there's a spectrum where if I have a chance to actually hit the podium, that's where I get nervous. But if I know that I'm out of the podium, I'm running the Boston Marathon or something, I'm not going to get nervous because, I don't have that same amount of pressure. But I think the races that I feel like I could, potentially podium, that's where I start to get nerves. So World's Toughest Mudder, I'm hoping I have a shot. And so definitely this is, and just it being the big race of the year and the one that I trained all year, there's just a lot of pressure and expectation that I put on myself. And so I think I do get a little nervous, but I've also, been racing a while and I know kind of how to mitigate that at this point. So I'll sleep the night before, hopefully. So as long as my kids don't keep me up, but I would sleep if I had it. So I'm not still at that stage where I, lose hours and hours of sleep. Especially now that I'm good and I've made my peace with the cliff. I should show up excited, but not nervous. And that's kind of the way that I try to direct my energy.
Are you bringing your kids to Vegas with you?
Yes. So my husband's going to be there, and he's going to be on kid duty / other kid duty, which would be me. And then we're actually driving down in the trailer, and then I think I mentioned it before to you, but we are going to Disneyland after. So it's like just a big fun trip of the year for me and my husband, and then also for the kids. It's pretty much the only way you could get my children to be excited for World's Toughest Mudder is be like Disneyland right after. And mommy's going to hobble around with you guys, so.
This year at Worlds, there is a $50,000 bonus for the winning woman if she completes 100 miles. What do you think about running 100 miles in 24 hours?
I think that's probably the goal that most women are going to. And, I think it's kind of been one of those things that every year the ladies are training harder and pushing themselves more and more. And new additions to the field. And so everything's just kind of has that upward momentum. So I feel like 100 miles would be a very natural goal for the ladies anyways this year. And I'm just glad to see that Tough Mudder put that bonus on there. Cause I feel like with the team and stuff, with the huge bonus, they didn't have a ladies or a mandatory mix. So it was kind of, I think, unfairly leaning towards the males. And I don't think that's something they intentionally did, but it's nice to see that they have set a different bar for ladies. I know when it comes to ultramarathon and like long distance events that women and men are definitely closer in terms of performance, but I still think that women's achievements should be celebrated on their own. So it's kind of nice to see that Tough Mudder is like recognizing this at this point and putting a separate bar for ladies to jump over, because I think it's really, really just engaged all of those world's toughest female athletes out there to just kind of push themselves a little harder this year, and it's just going to make it really, really magical.
Your best finish at World's Toughest Mudder was second in 2014. If you had to boil it down to its essence, what is your strategy to win World's Toughest Mudder?
Well, last year what I tried to do was just like run my own race, and I was really like steady, but kind of reining it in and just going at a really comfortable pace that I knew that I could maintain for the whole distance. But then I broke my knee and then I ended up having to walk. So I was kind of on pace just before 12 hours. I think I had hit 50 miles and then that's when my knee went. So I feel like I'm going to try to go out and do that same strategy. But I had a host of things that just did not make it my day last year and probably contributed to me being a little sloppy and stepping in a rock and tripping myself. But one of those things is just staying on top of nutrition early on in the race and just making sure that I run well within my comfort zone and that I kind of stay present. I think probably just zoning out on that hill is how I lodged my foot in between two rocks and ended up tackling myself and snapping my LCL. So I think I'm going to go in with the same strategy, just, run my own race from the beginning and just keep a good pace and stay happy and stay positive and take care of my body. And hopefully that'll pay dividends in terms of where I end up in the end.
You mentioned nutrition. What's your fueling strategy? Are you still on the Oreo kick?
The Oreos come and go for me. Like, I tried them in Tahoe at the Ultra Beast. I think just with the altitude, I couldn't get them down. They were too dry. So I still do a lot of rice pudding, which is kind of a staple for me. I do these rice bars that my friend makes. They're called scratch bars, and it's basically just like sushi rice and some other stuff. But I find I can't have, on a shorter race like a marathon, I'll just take goos and it's fine. But I find for the really long distance, 8 hours and above, it just makes me super nauseous and feel gross. I don't have a lot of sugar regularly in my diet, so if I just sit there eating sugar for 24 hours, I'm going to feel gross. So I'm not one of those people that can go off sugar-based liquid nutrition, so I tend to just eat like really easy digestible foods, and that works for me.
What's your plan for your wetsuit or your cold protection?
Well, I don't want to overdo it. That's another thing. Last year, I got into my wetsuit really early, and then I was just baking. So I had it like rolled all the way down, and I was like trying to like pull it out and cool down. And at that point, I probably should have stopped and switched into something a little lighter, but I kind of kept going with the fear of 2014 and the sandstorm kind of always nestled in the back of my mind and not wanting to get to the point where, I'm mildly hypothermic. So I think I just overdid it too soon. So I'm going to try to just monitor a little better with the weather and try not to get too hot or too cold, because too cold was definitely a problem in 2014, but last year it was all about just being too hot. And I think overdoing the toughest in the year, I kind of realized, like in LA, I started off with a wetsuit or like a full frog skins rather, and I just was dying of like, just had to take the top off and wrap it around. And so I think just finding that balance. I mean, in Philly, I wore frog skin bottoms and a tank top, and I was fine the whole time. So I do run a little bit hot, but I do run into trouble when I get cold. So I feel like for me, it's just about really dialing in on that balance.
You ran 5 of the 6 toughest mutters. Do you think that gives you an edge heading into World's Toughest?
I feel like it does. I feel like anybody that was out there running the toughest, it's just constantly a time to, gives you an opportunity to practice not only the night ops and the way that your body responds differently to fuel and, responds differently to the fact that there's no light. And, you just have a different sense of things at night. So you really get to practice that. But also, like the wetsuit and the gear and me figuring out like, hey, you know what? It sucks to be cold and I don't want to get there, but I also don't want to overheat. So it really, it's a lot of practice runs for people heading into World's Toughest. And then just practice on the obstacles, because Tough Mudder makes obstacles like no other race company, right? So to be able to be on Tough Mudder made obstacles and these big, crazy, scary things, every time you meet them, you get a little bit less scared and a little bit less anxious. So I think, there's no way that's not going to help you feel more relaxed and just kind of cruise through the obstacles better at World's Toughest Mudder.
Are there any obstacles you're dreading or you hope they don't have out there?
Well, I hate King of Swingers when you have to hit the bell and then you hit the water. I love hang time because you have the opportunity to stay dry, but I'm not a really big fan of falling. But that being said, I have really, really put a lot of effort into jumping the cliff. So I'm actually oddly excited about the cliff this year and just kind of overwhelmed with a sense of joy that I can finally like take part in that. Because in 2014, I famously did not do it one time. I just took the penalty. And so for the rest of the year, I literally went to the aquatic center and just jumped off the diving towers. And so the fact that I can approach that obstacle and be like anxious but not terrified is just amazing. So for that, it's just kind of going to be a celebration of all the hard work that I put in terms of wrapping myself around, falling 35 feet into the water when I hate jumping even like 2 feet. But, it's been a crazy journey to get over that fear. And I feel like I finally have conquered it to the point where I'm almost comfortable and kind of excited for it. So I'm glad we're having one last crack at it this year.
So you've been training your cliff jump technique.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. So after the cliff jump, I would go to the aquatic center here, and we have this diving tower. And I jump off the diving board like 1,000 times. And then I just incorporate it into my run. So I tried to go there for, like an hour, a minimum of 3-4 times a week. And so I go off the diving board, and then I finally made it up to the 5 meter. And then I just stand there and look over, and then I'd go home. And I'd come back, and I'd just stand there and look over, and then I'd make a pact with myself that the only way I'm going home is if I'm jumping off. So I can stand there as long as I want, but I have to jump off in order to go home. And finally, I'd have my toes hanging off the edge, and I just get so bored or like just, like this temporary lapse of judgment. And I just step off and be like, oh no, what did I do? Hit the water. And then it just slowly gets easier. And I did it all the way up until the 10 meter, that exact same way, just standing there with my toes over the edge. And then, you just make that one like little like quick judgment and you're in the air and it's too late. And then you just finally get used to it. I just try to like tell myself that it's something fun and not think like, oh my God, I'm going to fall this far into the water. But it's like, oh, I can't wait to feel this like weightlessness and just focus on like the pleasant sensations about it. And I think that really, really helped, to the point where I did it last year fine until I hurt my knee. And then the impact of the water no longer felt like it was helpful on my knee. It just, the impact really sent a jolt through my body. So I ended up having to take the penalty at that point. So being able to like consistently do the cliff. And I think it's a huge factor just not to be scared and anxious about it, because it does wear you down to have, this like rush of hormones and stuff each time. So I think that piece of my training has just been absolutely critical.
We've talked about it before, but how do you get through the dark places mentally, like in the middle of the night when your body's telling you to quit or to stop running or to go slow?
You know what? I just think that so far in my life, I've been there so many times that I just acknowledge them. And I'm like, oh, hello, dark space. And then I just am like, okay, keep going until it's over. And that's all it needs to be. Like I don't overthink it. I just am like, oh, yes. So maybe it's that I've been poor. Like I try to assess it almost from like a third person. So it's like, oh, you know what? You were not that, you're not that up on your nutrition last hour. You should have gotten an extra 100 more calories. So you're probably bonking a little bit, or how's your hydration? So I try to at first just take it like to that level. And then I just acknowledge that there's going to be dark points, but there's going to be high points again. And it's, just part of the game. And there's hills and there's valleys, and you just keep riding through and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And you know that you're going to feel better again eventually. Hopefully.
Allison, this year at World's Toughest Mudder, there will be the strongest female field ever. When you look at all the women you'll be competing against, what do you think?
It is a stacked field. It's just going to be an awesome year in terms of just watching these ladies. And it's not like, it's funny because people are like, oh, you guys are competitors and you must look and be like, oh no, Amelia's coming or whatnot. I don't think any of us really are. I mean, we're just really excited to be out there and to be kind of pushing each other and to be part of the community, because that's really what this race is all about, is just seeing people through their goals and supporting them in that. And I just really feel excited that there's so many women that are just going to crush it this year. And just to be there and take a front row seat to that is just going to be amazing. And just the energy this year is, I think, going to be, the energy there is always crazy, but I think this year it's just going to be absolutely incredible. I keep telling people, like, if there's one year you're going to come and crew for somebody, pit for somebody, it's got to be this year, because it's just going to be the most incredible year.
Allison, do you have any sponsors you'd like to plug?
As always, I am sponsored by Reebok, so they suit me up and give me some great shoes and some good support to keep doing this. Also, I'm the Spartan Race. They're always very supportive of me. And Van City OCR, I guess, which is the gym that we just opened here, the Ninja Gym. And that just gives me a great place to train when I don't want to be soaking wet in Vancouver in the wintertime. So, and then just the community that stands behind me, both in the Mudder world and here at home. I'm just so blessed about all the people in my family and my non-blood family that just, are so supportive and such like an instrumental part in me achieving any goal.
Allison, any last thoughts on World's Toughest 2017?
No, I'm just really excited. I think, a lot of us have been out there quite a few times now, and, you are going to hit those dark places. But I think what's most is just remembering that this is the last time that we're going to be at this venue, at least for a while. And just to appreciate that, and really soak it all in and kind of celebrate all the memories that you've had there and all the hardships that you've overcome and just kind of soak up the desert for the last year, because I guess things are going to be changing. So,
special thanks to Allison Tai for appearing in this episode. Well done, Allison, as always. Seriously, if you live in Vancouver, you should be at her gym. Check it out, vancityocr.ca. Don't forget about our call-in show on Monday night. Details are in the show notes. Leave a review on iTunes while you're waiting for Monday to roll around, and don't forget to tune in tomorrow for more from Elite Week. I will see you in Vegas.